I'm one of those who takes the view that there does need to be openness and transparency in the children's courts and youth courts. I think if people knew what was going on, they would be deeply shocked. In the criminal courts, the sort of presumption is that anybody can walk in off the street without asking anybody, without telling anybody, without any restrictions whatsoever, can walk in and can listen to what is going on. Now that provides a public supervision of what is occurring. It provides some sort of safety net, so that if there is a perception that there is injustice there, that person is in a position to raise it in the right places and to bring public pressure to bear so that wrong is put right. With the children's court, the presumption is that no one will go in unless the judge says so. But on top of that, there has been a tendency over the last few decades for local authorities to apply for what have been called gag orders, that is, injunctions that prevent people from discussing what's going on in the courts. And it's argued that that is in the best interest of the children, but when you look at some of the arguments, they're rubbish. You know, some of the arguments that are put forward in child protection couldn't be more flaky. Now, if those arguments had to answer to public scrutiny, it would be the end of them. They'd stop. But as long as those arguments are heard in secret, and it becomes a sect, child protection, and I include all the participants in that, it becomes a closed sect. And the problem is, in a sect, that people only hear one another and convince one another, and they don't really hear the feedback from outside, and that's really dangerous. If you only ever talk to people who agree with you and reinforce you in a particular line of thinking, you get farther and farther away from what the rest of the world thinks. And that's what's happened in the family courts. They've got farther and farther away from what normal, reasonable people think. And so normal, reasonable people are shocked when they find out some of what's been going on. The public should have the right to find out some of what's occurring. So I'm of the school of thought that says we do need to get them opened up. Yes, we do need to provide some restrictions on reporting in terms of not reporting the identities of the children. So there needs to be sufficient protection of the children, which is what the relevant legislation says, that it's supposed to be about protecting the children. But beyond that, I really don't see that we should be protecting malpractice from public scrutiny. Now that's deeply wrong, and that's got to stop. I don't think we should be protecting people who lie, people who mislead the courts, or people whose decision making is faulty. But so will all the witnesses, and especially the experts. I mean, that's the area of one of the biggest areas of concern, isn't it? The so-called expert evidence. A lot of the nonsense and the malpractice that's gone on should have been stopped years ago, but one of the most effective ways to stop it is to make the courts open to the general public.